this and that and what the fuck else, episode 130. That's quite a lot. This episode I'm going to talk about the pestilence, some gender things that are quite disturbing, and then there is a few items that I classify under my favorite topic, the global revolution, of course green stuff, some health issues, and a few things about the Zotsis. And obviously I have to have something about this racism shit. And then there's what the fuck. That is really going to make you. Now let's start off with the usual art shot. This image is really well done, and I'm astounded by the dynamics of the shot, and I can just imagine how many shots did the photographer do to get this. But it's a great shot. I don't want to rate the shot, just look at it and enjoy. Then we get to the pestilence. Now this can be seen as a bit of a tongue-in-the-cheek thing, but it actually happened. Government health advice: avoid sunlight and fresh air as much as possible. Trap bacteria and germs in your face for at least 8 hours a day. Watch television news propaganda daily. Instill a sense of anxiety and fear in your children. Get injected with untested poison. Now, all of us have experienced some of this. And then we get to this. I have spoken about the fact that Ireland is such a high jab percentage. Now look at this. Ireland sees 42% more deaths in the past 2 months compared to pre-pestilence levels. I am stunned. I don't really know what to say about this. But as I've mentioned previously, I saw that doctor talking to that panel in March 2021, and they didn't want to listen. And eventually he just threw his pack of documents at them and said, you don't want to listen? Watch what's going to happen in the first quarter of 2020. And now I'm seeing these things, and the numbers are high. And then we get to this gender thing, and this is extremely disturbing to me. Look at that shit. This is what small children are subjected to. This is insane. This is actually satanic. And then we get to Germany. I am still astonished that the Germans actually thought it was a good plan to send tanks to Ukraine. Serbian President Alexander Vučić: I think that the greatest mistake of the West is that they announced a supply of tanks to Ukraine, especially German tanks. And I tell you why. They're scary tanks, not talking about which is better, Challenger, Leopard or Abrams. But now they have united the Russian people. This is the biggest political mistake of the West, because they have united the Russians in one day. But by now we should be used to it. The West doesn't listen, and they don't think. They don't think before they do things. And then we get to the global revolution, and look at this. Retail giant Pick n Pay to accept Bitcoin in 1,628 stores across South Africa. Grocery retailer Pick n Pay is expanding its Bitcoin coverage to all stores in the country following a 3-month pilot testing phase. Now, this is really, and take note, Bitcoin is not the same thing as this WEEF promoted digital money. It's not the same thing, because that thing is a centralized thing which they can switch off at will. They can't do it with Bitcoin. And then there's this interesting note. The Russian economy is growing faster than the German economy. The boycott of Russian oil and gas has led to a sharp increase in energy prices. The Russian Federation began to earn more with fewer exports. A year from now, Moscow can expect significant export surplus plus. All countries are still interested in our commodities, according to Bloomberg. About 2.5 million barrels a day go to Turkey, China and India and many African states. Europe to this day is still not without Russian gas. Apple and Samsung, however, return to Russia by a roundabout means. The companies did not take the sanctions seriously. According to an IMF forecast, the Russian economy will grow initially by 0.3 in 2023 and will then strengthen significantly in 2024. And the West don't learn, especially those Europeans, because they're now working on, I think, the 10th package of sanctions. And this is some information that you can just think about. China is teaching their kids quantum physics and calculus, while America is teaching our kids gender pronouns and how to twerk from a drag queen. This isn't going to end well. And I agree. It is pathetic. And then we've got this. Indian refiners have begun paying for most of their Russian oil purchased via Dubai-based traders in UAE Dirhams instead of USD. Indian refiners and traders are concerned they may not be able to continue to settle trades in dollars, especially if the price of Russian crude rises above the G7 EU imposed price cap. The State Bank of India is now clearing these dirham payments after previous failures. So there it is. And I've read somewhere else that they're also now selling their refined product for dirhams. And then we get to the green stuff, and again look at this image. Two images, one in 1900 and one in 2021. Same lighthouse, 120 years apart. The ocean levels haven't changed one bit. Global warming is bullshit to gain more governmental controls over the citizens. That there's so many scientific papers coming out contradicting this whole global warming, climate change fucking farce that the politicians are trying to ram down our throats. They don't, nobody listens. And this from Steve Malloy. It's official, no global warming for 8 years and 5 months per NASA satellite data. That's no warming despite 475 billion tons of CO2 emissions. CO2 warming is the biggest scientific hoax of all time. I agree with that. And then we get to this health thing. And this is actually quite disturbing. Should brain-dead women be kept alive and used as surrogates? Expert floats idea of organ donor style arrangement so women can agree to letting their body be used to give childless couples a chance at having a baby. Well, I won't be surprised if it's not already happening. And then we get to something for the vegans. Fun fact, numerous studies have now shown consistent relationships between plant-based diets and significantly increased fracture rates. And then look at that. The top is normal bones and the bottom is vegan bones. And there was a lot of comments in that thread about this, and people were saying, well, at least the vegans will be the first to be able to fly and all types of things. And then we get to this hilarious thing, and this is part of this balloon fiasco. Just for the record, during the Cold War, the Americans sent lots of these balloons over the Russia. And the Russians complained about it because they, at that stage, they also did not have anything to shoot those balloons down. So before you make jokes about the fact that they struggled to shoot that balloon down, it is a damn difficult target. And the thing is hell of a high. So, just think about it. But it is ironic that the Americans are now very pissed off about the Chinese balloon over their airspace, where they used to terrorize the Russians with the same thing. Look at this. Wait until your enemy's spy balloon completes its mission before shooting it down. Bonus, shoot it down over waters too deep to recover the payload. Joe 2, Art of War. And then there's this interesting post from Chibureki Man. For inquisitive minds, usually the first big discovery is that the MSM is essentially an extension of the state. This is how quasi-pseudo-democracy works. Everyone gets a vote, but the MSM manipulates public opinion for the benefit of the political ruling elite. And this was in response to something that Julian Assange said. Nearly every war that has started in the past 50 years has been a result of media lies. And we saw what they did to us with the pestilence. And then we get to the Nazis. For those that deny the existence of the Nazis in Ukraine, look at this image. Decide for yourself, what are you seeing there? And then there's more on the same lines, and here they are actually brutally in your face. Look at that. And then this. The Ukrainian writer Larisa Netsoy says people of Russian descent should be made to wear red stars, like during World War II. If you go against society and your people, you should be marked. Decent places shouldn't let them in, let them feel like outcasts. How's that? If that is not Zazi. And then we get to the racism thing. Explain why she should be a minority in her own country. Europeans are being displaced in their own lands by diversity and multiculturalism. The Europeans has got big problems. And then we have this from South Africa. Life in South Africa for white people means suffering brazen kill-the-Boer war dances. So much for the so-called white privilege. Where are all the hypocritical liberals who pretend to be concerned about human rights in South Africa? Why don't they defend white South Africans? And that is a good question. Then we get to this. UN must investigate Washington's crimes against humanity, including the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq, Russian Parliament Chairman Volodin. 500,000 civilians became victims of Washington's invasion of Iraq. They executed the president and country was no more. The entire policy of the US and collective West is based on lies. And I agree with that. And then we have this, and this is something that makes me angry. Once again, the Americans, they see themselves as above the law, and they are stealing Russian assets. US Attorney General Garland announces transfer of frozen assets of Russian businessman Molofev to Kiev. Today I'm announcing that I have authorized the first ever transfer of forfeited Russian assets to use in Ukraine. Can you believe it? But it's going to backfire in a big way. Really, in a big way. The rest of the world sees these things. Which country is going to be confident to keep their foreign assets in dollars or in security bonds? Nobody. Any person with his right mind going to take his money out there, because these people, they showed it here how easy it is for them to steal. And some more US hypocrisy. US withdraws Russian oil products for Bulgaria and Croatia from sanctions. The owners took pity on the freezing lackeys and allowed them to warm themselves with Siberian gas at the end of winter. Think about that. And then we get to the UK. Mr. Elmwood spoke in exasperation as he told MPs that prioritising ethnic minority and female pilots over better qualified white pilots in order to improve the force's diversity profile could materially impact on the RAF's operational performance. Now for me, as a South African, we are used to this type of shit. Now the English is going to feel it. And what I cannot understand is that there's no public uproar. In South Africa we had the same situation. The result was, I think there's only 4 or 5 fighter jets still flying, and the rest of the fleet has been crashed. And then we get to that what the fuck, and this will make you really laugh. The US math team beat the Chinese team for the first time in 30 years. And look at that US team. Look at that. All Chinese. And on that note, please give me a like and a subscribe. Share the thing. Thank you.